What would you do if the person you trusted most sent imposters to tear your life apart? My name is Thomas Carver, and I never thought I'd face betrayal like this, not at 65, not after a lifetime of upholding justice. But HOA, the woman I treated like a daughter, orchestrated a scheme so vicious it nearly broke me. This is the story of how her lies unraveled, how I fought back, and how the truth left us both in ruins. It started on a crisp October morning in Seattle, the kind where the air smells of damp leaves and possibility. I was in my study, sipping coffee, reviewing case files from my days as Washington's Attorney General. Retirement hadn't dulled my edge. I still consulted for law firms, my reputation as a legal titan intact. My phone buzzed a text from HOA Karen, my former mentee, now a rising star in corporate law. Tom, need your advice.
Urgent.
Can I come over? I smiled. HOA was family to me, the daughter I never had. I typed back, doors open. HOA arrived within the hour, her sleek black sedan pulling into my driveway. She was as polished as ever-sharp blazer, dark hair pulled back, her smile warm but strained. I should have noticed the tension in her eyes, the way her fingers twitched as she hugged me. Tom, I'm in trouble, she said, her voice low. A client's threatening to sue. I need your help to navigate this. I ushered her inside, my mind already racing through legal strategies. HOA had always been brilliant, her ambition matched only by her charm. I'd mentored her through law school, watched her climb the ranks at a prestigious firm. She was my pride, my legacy. But as she spoke, her story didn't add up. Vague details about a client. No names, no documents. I pressed her, my prosecutor's instinct kicking in. HOA, who is this client? Give me something concrete. She hesitated, then reached for her phone. I'll show you the contract. Before she could, the doorbell rang sharp, insistent. I frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone. HOA's face paled, her eyes darting to the door. Ignore it, she whispered. I didn't. Through the peephole, I saw two men badges glinting, uniforms crisp, faces hard. Police, one barked. Open the door, Thomas Carver, or we're coming in. My pulse quickened, not from fear but from suspicion. I'd faced down mob bosses in court. Cops didn't scare me, but something was off. Their badges looked cheap, their stances too rehearsed. I opened the door, keeping my voice calm. What's this about? The taller one, a broad-shouldered man with a crooked mustache, flashed a badge. You're under arrest for fraud and embezzlement. Come quietly. His partner, wiry and sweating, gripped a pair of cuffs. I glanced at HOA, expecting her to protest. She wouldn't meet my gaze. Show me the warrant, I said, my tone ice. The tall one faltered, fumbling with a folded document. I took it, scanning the text. Amateur work, wrong formatting, misspelled jurisdiction. My blood ran cold, not from the accusation but from the realization. This was a setup, and HOA was part of it. Let's talk inside, I said, stepping back, my mind racing. They followed, the wiry one glancing at HOA like she was their cue. I turned to her, my voice low. HOA, what have you done? Her lips trembled, but she stayed silent, her eyes a storm of guilt and defiance. I'd built my career on reading people, and HOA's silence screamed betrayal. I stalled, offering the cops coffee, watching their every move. The tall one was cocky, reciting charges like he'd memorized a script. The wiry one kept checking his phone, muttering about the boss. I knew I had to act before they escalated. Gentlemen, I said, leaning back in my chair. Did you know I was the Attorney General for 20 years? I prosecuted cases like this. Your warrant's a forgery, and I'm guessing you're not cops. The wiry one flinched. The tall one's jaw tightened. HOA's breath hitched, her hands clenching her purse. I pressed my advantage. Who hired you? Tell me now, and I'll consider not pressing charges. The wiry one cracked first, his voice shaking. She paid us 10 grand to scare you. Said you stole her client's assets. He pointed at HOA, who shot to her feet, her face flushed. Tom, they're lying. she shouted. Her voice broke. I cut her off. Enough, I said, my heart sinking. I turned to the imposters. You're both under citizen's arrest for impersonation and attempted fraud. Sit down. They froze, realizing they'd underestimated me. I grabbed my phone, dialing 911, my eyes never leaving Hoa. She bolted for the door, but I was faster, blocking her path. You're not running from this, I said, my voice shaking with anger and pain. The real cops arrived minutes later, cuffing the imposters as they stammered excuses. Hoa stood frozen, her defiance crumbling. I wanted answers, but more than that, I wanted to understand why. Why had she turned on me? What had I missed? As the police questioned her, fragments of the truth emerged. Hoa's firm was bleeding money, her clients fleeing after a scandal. She'd fabricated a story about me to deflect blame, hoping to frame me long enough to secure a deal with a rival firm. The fake cops were her desperate gambit to intimidate me into silence. She hadn't counted on my experience or my refusal to back down. I watched her sob as they led her away, her mascara streaking, her future in tatters. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to see the girl I'd been. But betrayal leaves no room for sentiment. I'd given her my trust, my guidance, and she'd weaponized it. The weeks that followed were brutal. The media pounced, headlines screaming about the retired AG versus protégé scandal. My reputation held, but my spirit didn't. I couldn't stop digging, piecing together Hoa's descent. She'd always chased success, but when had it twisted her into this? I visited her in jail, needing closure. She looked small behind the glass, her bravado gone. Tom, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was drowning. Her voice broke, but her excuses didn't enough. You chose this, I said. You burned everything we had for ambition. Walking away, I felt no victory, only loss. Hoa's betrayal had cost her freedom, but it cost me something deeper, faith in the bonds I'd built. I'd spent my life fighting for justice, but this fight left me hollow. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily, and some scars never fade. The case went to trial, and I testified, each word a nail in Hoa's coffin. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation. I recounted every detail: the fake cops, the forged warrant, Hoa's silence. The jury deliberated for hours, but I knew the outcome. Guilty on all counts. But the verdict didn't heal me. I returned home, my study now a graveyard of memories. Photos of Hoa's graduation, her proud smile, mocked me. I'd seen her as family, but family doesn't destroy. Months later, I learned Hoa's sentence. 7 years. The news hit like a stone in still water. I poured myself a whiskey, staring out at the Seattle skyline. Justice had prevailed, but at what cost? I'd won the fight, but lost the one person who'd thought would carry my legacy forward. Ambition had turned Hoa into a stranger, and I couldn't shake the question. Could I have saved her? I never visited her again. Some wounds are too deep to touch. My life went on consulting, lectures, but the ache lingered. I'd faced down criminals, but none had hurt like Hoa. Trust is fragile, a flower that withers under deceit. And some betrayals leave you with nothing but the bitter truth. The days after Hoa's sentencing blurred into a haze of routine. I threw myself into work, consulting on high-profile cases, delivering lectures at law schools, anything to drown out the silence where trust used to be. My home, once a sanctuary, felt like a museum of betrayal. Every corner held memories of Hoa's laughter, her ambition, her fall. I'd framed her first bar exam results, proud as any father. Now that frame sat in a drawer, too painful to display, too precious to destroy. Seattle's legal community buzzed with the scandal. Colleagues called, offering support or fishing for gossip. I deflected them all, my answers clipped. It's over, I'd say, but it wasn't. Hoa's actions had rippled beyond her cell, staining my faith in people. I'd spent decades believing in redemption, but her betrayal made me question if some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. I dug deeper into her motives, unable to let go. Public records revealed the extent of her firm's collapse debts in the millions, clients abandoning ship after a whistleblower exposed their shady practices. HOA, the firm's golden child, had been tasked with damage control. Instead, she'd gambled on framing me, thinking a disgraced mentor would shift the spotlight. She hadn't just underestimated my skills. She'd misjudged my resolve. I tracked down her former colleagues, piecing together her final months at the firm. They painted a picture of a woman unraveling sleepless nights, snapping at staff, chasing deals with a desperation that bordered on obsession. She talked about you constantly. One associate told me over coffee, said you were the only one who'd understand her pressure. Then she stopped mentioning you altogether. That stung more than I expected. When had she decided I was expendable? I found myself replaying our years together. HOA had come to me as a law student, eyes bright with hunger for justice. She'd grown up in a tight-knit Vietnamese-American community, her parents running a small grocery store, their dreams pinned on her. I'd seen her potential, nurtured it, introduced her to the right people. I'd celebrated her wins, from her first courtroom victory to her corner office. Where had I missed the cracks? One night, unable to sleep, I pulled up an old email from HOA, sent years ago after a tough case. Tom, you taught me to fight for what's right, even when it's hard. Thank you for believing in me. I stared at the words until they blurred. Had I failed her by not seeing her struggle? Or had she always carried this darkness, waiting for the right pressure to unleash it? The answer came unexpectedly, in a letter slipped under my door 6 months after the trial. HOA's handwriting, neat but shaky, covered a single page. Tom, I know you hate me, and I don't blame you. I was drowning, and I thought dragging you down would save me. It was wrong, and I'm sorry. She described her spiral clients threatening lawsuits, her firm's partners blaming her, the fear of losing everything she'd built. I thought I could scare you into stepping back, make you the villain so I could be the hero. I forgot who you are. Her apology didn't absolve her, but it cracked something in me. I saw her not as the schemer who'd betrayed me, but as the girl who'd once cried in my office, overwhelmed by her first loss in court. I told her then, failure doesn't define you, how you rise does. She hadn't risen. She'd fallen and taken me with her. I didn't write back. Instead, I visited her old neighborhood, a quiet street of modest homes and small businesses. Her parents' grocery store was still there, its sign faded but proud. I didn't go. I wasn't ready to face them. But standing there, I felt the weight of their dreams, the ones HOA had carried. Had her ambition been hers or theirs? Had she betrayed me to protect them or to prove something to herself? The community had turned on her, too. Whispers followed me as I walked. Neighbors who'd once bragged about their HOA now spoke of her with shame. She had everything, an elderly woman muttered, sweeping her porch. Why throw it away? I had no answer. HOA's choices had fractured more than our bond. They'd shattered the trust of those who'd raised her. I threw myself into pro bono work, representing clients who reminded me of HOA's younger self, hungry, flawed, but fighting for a chance. It was my way of reclaiming what I'd lost, of proving her betrayal hadn't broken me. But late at night, alone with my thoughts, I couldn't escape the truth. I missed her. Not the HOA who'd sent fake cops to my door, but the one who'd debated legal ethics with me over whiskey, who'd laughed until she cried at my terrible puns. A year after the trial, I attended a legal conference in Portland. The keynote speaker, a young attorney, quoted me, "Justice isn't about winning. It's about truth." I'd said that to HOA once, early in her career. Hearing it now felt like a knife twisting. I left the conference early, driving home through the rain, my mind a storm of regrets. Back in Seattle, I learned HOA's firm had collapsed entirely, its partners indicted for fraud. The scandal had roots deeper than I'd realized. A web of greed HOA had been too junior to orchestrate but too entangled to escape. She'd been a pawn in their game, just as she'd tried to make me one in hers. It didn't excuse her, but it explained her panic, her desperation. I testified at the partners' trial, my words measured but heavy. The courtroom felt like a ghost of HOA's, The same judge presiding, the same air of inevitability. The partners were convicted, their sentences longer than hers. I felt no satisfaction. Justice was served, but it tasted like ash. 2 years after her arrest, I got a call from the prison. HOA wanted to see me. I almost refused, but curiosity or maybe masochism went out. She looked thinner, her eyes hollow but clear. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said, her voice steady. "I just needed you to know I'm trying to be better. I'm taking classes, helping other inmates with their cases." She paused, swallowing hard. "I think about what you taught me every day." I wanted to believe her, but trust is a fragile thing. "I hope you mean it," I said, standing to leave. "But actions, not words, define you now." She nodded, tears brimming but not falling. As I walked away, I felt the final thread of our bond snap. I'd loved her like family, but family doesn't rebuild on lies. Life moved on as it always does. I kept working, kept fighting, but the fire in me had dimmed. HOA's betrayal had taught me a truth I'd spent my career avoiding. Justice doesn't always heal. Sometimes it just leaves you standing in the wreckage, picking up the pieces alone. Now, as I write this, I'm 67, my hair grayer, my heart heavier. I pass HOA's old office sometimes, now a coffee shop, its windows bright with strangers' laughter. I wonder if she'll find redemption when she's released, or if she'll carry her mistakes forever. I wonder if I'll ever trust like I once did. This story isn't just my nights. A question for you. Where do you draw the line between ambition and morality? Was HOA a villain, or a victim of a system that chews up dreamers? Is justice worth its cost when it leaves everyone broken? Share your thoughts, because in a world of gray, we all wrestle with what's right.